Good evening, Topic Mixer family. I hope you're having a wonderful evening. I was originally going to do a video on 2020 in review, but upon further review, today's, or should I say yesterday's event at this point, yesterday's events, wow, what a mess. So let's talk about this in no uncertain terms, the way I would talk about this. Okay, America, if you don't know what happened, let me explain a little bit. So, Congress was in the process of certifying the election and the electoral votes for Biden and Trump, which would, of course, would lead to Biden being nominated president of the United States. There were those congressmen who objected to uh, the electoral votes and saying that there were some irregularities in the voting, and so that would delay the process somewhat. Well, Trump, who has been all along working trying to overthrow the election, decided today to hold a rally in D.C. And thousands of his supporters decided to show up in D.C. They've been there since a couple of days ago. In fact, yesterday they clashed with Antifa and some Black Lives Matter protesters as well. This is the tension that's been between the two sides for months, as you know. Actually, years at this point. As of this morning, I guess about 9 or 10 a.m. this morning, they came to the Capitol building, eventually stormed the building, overtaking the D.C. police who guard the building, and getting into the chambers of Congress. Therefore, all the senators had a bunker in place, hide out, and eventually all of them were removed as the D.C. police tried to bring things back to normal. Meanwhile, they broke out windows, they were standing in the hallways, and it amazes me, to see this in our nation's capital. Of course, this isn't the first time that a Capitol building has been stormed. This happened in Michigan. This also happened a few weeks ago, I believe, in Missouri and a few other places where they've stormed the Capitol buildings there. But now they've stormed the Capitol building of our national Capitol building. Where did all of this come from? Let's start at the beginning as the way I see it, and hopefully other Americans will understand where I stand on this. There are different groups in America. Some of them are minority, black like myself, Latino. Uh, they're gay people, they're straight people, whatever you want to break it down to. But America started off the wrong way. See, we were born on a lie. Greedy colonists who decided they did not like being taxed by the British decided that they needed to dump the tea in the harbor, Boston Harbor, for the Boston Tea Party. They didn't want to be taxed by the British. It was unfairly done. They said they weren't represented in the Parliament of Britain, so they shouldn't be taxed by the king. Okay, I get that, but this is an elitist thing because they were businessmen and they were the ones being taxed. So they convinced the other colonists, the regular people, that they're also being taxed unfairly, and they were not being represented by the British. And America, for the most part, had an autonomous kind of nature of being run, so they were allowed to do things their own way here. For one thing, slavery was a big deal. They were running over the Native Americans here. They had captured indigenous people, black people from Africa, as their servants, working on their farms, building houses, and doing other tasks, labor intensive tasks. So that was some things that it was helping America gain wealth. Meanwhile, you did have some other Americans who came over here who were working hard, trying to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. That's part of where that come from. They built houses. They worked as paid servants and paid hands in places where slaves weren't being used. Now, there's already a conflict being built up here. See, these paid hands that aren't wealthy, like the wealthy landowners, are in conflict with the slaves because the slave is taking a job that he could have. But because the slave owner is getting free labor from the slave is doing that job. He gets all the benefits of that work without having to pay that slave who gets no benefits of any kind. He works till he dies. Basically, that was it. So, when the American finally wanted to declare independence from England, they wrote this thing called the Declaration of Independence, which says all men are created equal. We hold these truths, let me say this word again, truths, that all men are created equal. And yet, remember that word true is in there. Truth. All men are created equal. Yet, there were indigenous people who were being taken off of their land, killed indiscriminately. There were black men being held captive as slaves who had no rights whatsoever. Yet, we've got a document that's talking about truth, independence of all men, and the right to the pursuit of happiness. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, all of which black people had none of. Now, you're already probably willing your head. Where's this going? Where's this going? So, like I said, there was this other group of men who had some freedoms, who believed in that, who took that document to heart. They wanted their independence. They want liberty and freedom to do whatever they want. Right? So they're that next level of people. Like I said, you've got the slaves down here, you got that working class people in this. So this class right here, this white, mostly white class, becomes the soldiers of the war, the Revolutionary War, the War for Independence. They are this class right here. Some of them, this color, not very many, but some. Because some men out there hold these men equal. But even Washington, who was a slave owner himself, recognized the fact that it would be dangerous to have these men with guns. Think about that. Think about that for a second. So, America eventually wins the war. They write the Constitution. But in the process of writing the Constitution, to protect this newly formed union that they're creating and the wealth that they're building, they include slavery in the Constitution. Now, it's supposed to be changed by, 1843, something like that. There's going to be a decision made on whether to change it or not. Well, lo and behold, they know it's a bad institution. It's not a good thing, but they're making money from it. So what would be the point of ending the slavery if it's making money for you? Especially for the Southerners. And the Southerners were hostile to ending the practice of slavery. Lo and behold, let's go on 84 years later, and we have the Civil War, 1860 to 1865. This was over, slavery, right. Men being held captive in the South by Northerners who had started making rules and wanted to get rid of slavery altogether in the North. Even though they profited off of the work of the field hands and slaves in the South. And let me tell you how crooked this was. A state like Kentucky and Maryland were slave states, but they were on the side of the Union. Originally, the only people who were going to lose their slavery were the Confederate States. Get where I'm going with this. The Confederate States. All the while, that white middle working class fought on both sides, North and South. Black men came along later, and some of them fought in that too. Now, this class here, especially in the South, was upset with the results of the war because they felt like all those things that they had been told about freedom, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, even though they were barefoot and fighting with guns and barely had enough to eat, that hunger still meant they had more freedom than this guy who usually was in chains. Lo and behold, the war ends. The Confederacy loses. Sore losers, not happy losers. The United States, in order to continue making its money and try to make everybody happy, decides eventually to compromise with those Southerners who included those slavers from before. This created the Jim Crow era. The Jim Crow era kept these white guys a step above these black guys. So these black guys, maybe they earned farms, became the farm hands, but these guys became the tenant landlords for the landowners who were keeping the slaves in hand. These became the skilled workers. Now you're adding some more black people to that skilled market. Jealousy sets in. Again, Jim Crow laws help protect this class, not these. Protect this class. Jim Crow goes to about the 50s, 60s. We'll talk about World War II a little bit too. Let me throw that in there. So, another thing that helps boost the white working class man. World War II. We go fight the Nazis who were killing millions of Jews. We fight the Japanese who were killing millions of people in China and other places who were they were all imperialists thinking about taking over land and stuff. They were our enemies. So America gets another new false sense of democracy and a new false sense of power. Because I've got to throw everything in there that I'm not throwing in there. But let's start with that one. So, like I said, these men right here go fight the war over there. There's always an elite class up here that's not doing anything. They're sitting there like, I'm still making my money. But you need to go fight this war so I can keep making my money. Along with them goes these guys right here. They go over there to fight too. So when they come home, I give this white guy incentives. I give him this thing called the GI Bill. I give him the ability to build his wealth. I give him the ability to move up. Meanwhile, this guy's still here. You're moving up here a little bit. Off camera. You're up. Yeah, up here. He's still down here. He doesn't have the GI Bill. He doesn't have access to those things. In fact, we can think about after the Civil War. They were promised 40 acres and a mule. They didn't get that. But these guys went to fulfill manifest destiny. They were allowed to build houses in the West and the Midwest where new lands came open. They were given those opportunities. Not these guys. So we've got a petrol class that's right here. Meanwhile, we can talk about the fact that women were kept low until they were given suffrage. Mexicans, they were outsider citizens. We can talk about Italians and all these other people that eventually became assimilated into society because they looked more like the people that were there. Meanwhile, black people as a whole stayed at the bottom and white people here. Well, their structure starts breaking down when this part up here is earning a lot of money. And then it realizes I don't only have to earn money here, I can earn money overseas. So this right here becomes less and less important. This becomes even less important, but this becomes super important. So this class starts feeling the pinch when this class slightly moves up. Then let's add other brown people to it. They're starting to feel the pinch because they're starting to creep down and move up, and people are moving in their neighborhood that look like this. And you got these other people over here because 1965 to 69, Dr. Martin Luther King marches. Dr. Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement cause black people to get the vote. The world that they knew is starting to change. The powers that they once had are now being distributed to other people. But this class up here, still on top, still making that money. This class right here is not feeling it so well anymore. So like I said, these folks up here learned that they can make money overseas. So they started shipping jobs overseas to places like China, down to Mexico, some of them up to Canada, some of them to Europe. So now this group is starting to feel the pinch because they were working in those jobs. These guys were too, but they weren't getting paid as much. So they're starting to feel the pinch. Everybody becomes less important. Also, let's not forget this was going on. America lived on this thing called manifest destiny. And these guys right here, they believed in that manifest destiny. We would be a country from ocean to ocean. Then we'd become a world power. So let me tell you about all the little things that hurt that world power status. So as this is going on, it's sucking the life out of these people and the country they live in. Everything's becoming more expensive. Houses are becoming more expensive. There's less stuff available. And now here come these people that look like this. And the ones coming up from Mexico that were working in those factories are getting jobs too. And then the women are screaming about they want freedom. And you got these gay folks wanting to get married. All those systems and structures that we had in place are giving other people the liberties we have. So then what happens? Along comes Donald Trump. Actually, it started with talk radio. Talk radio was talking about all these things that America was doing. They made it sound great. How that we were losing jobs to China and all this stuff because of what the libs were doing and how they were letting them get away overseas and how the upper crust, that upper crust up there. Remember, these guys really don't like that upper crust up there. They want to be them, but they don't like them. How they were giving everything away to the Chinese and they were letting the Mexicans came up here and that thing NAFTA happened. NAFTA, that started taking American jobs too. So lo and behold, a black man finally becomes president of the United States. 2008. 2012. Finally, there's a problem. Because he's going to take away all of this little bit that we have left. He's going to take it all away. Oh, he started that American healthcare thing. That was just, that was awful. It was just terrible what he did to us. Oh, then there was Colin Kaepernick who took a knee because he wanted to make a point about social justice, about what was happening in the black community, about these folks who were beating these folks down because they got paid for it. And again, like I told you, they didn't like the fact that the gays were getting married. In fact, that was a big no. That was a huge no. And let's not forget the Me Too movement. Too much was going on. Too much was being taken. The Mexicans were getting their freeway here. There was these DACA workers and all these other people. 9/11. Finally, those foreign powers were coming to the United States, and they showed the vulnerability of the United States. They killed 2,200 people. So then came this false thing that was going on with white people that started saying that all these enemies coming. They want to make this country great again. They want to go back to where they were before World War II when they were great. The country wasn't that great then. It was living on a false lie. And we keep bringing that up. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Yet Mitch McConnell has spent 20 years in Congress telling you how he can get the guy's money up here. But I keep lying to you and telling you he's working for you. Meanwhile, every congressman, whether it be Nancy Pelosi, even Bernie Sanders, love Bernie Sanders. I love the idea of Medicaid for all and $15 minimum wage because that's working for the working class. That's working for the working class. Meanwhile, guys like that, They've been in Congress since '79. Ain't nothing gotten done. Very little. Of course, Bernie's one man. Yet they keep building these huge PACs with big dollars from big dollar donors. They got us fighting over Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, and liberals, progressives, and Tea Partiers, and all these other little things that they start getting this fight. It's their fault. 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 It's their fault all along. So now we get this guy named Trump in office. He's the president. He's gonna fix everything that Obama did because see, these guys felt that Obama was taking away everything from them. In fact, I'm bringing it up right now. Somebody saying, "Oh, he's full of it. He doesn't know what he's talking about." Yes, I do. Oh, I voted for Obama. I voted for mine, but you didn't like him. It scared the shit out of you, and it's obvious. I see it every day on Facebook posts. I see it on Instagram. I see it on Twitter. So then we get this. You're going to say I drank the Kool-Aid. Let me tell you something. I'm a black man, first of all. Black. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a socialist. I'm not a progressive. I am not any of those things. I'm a black man. And I see America in a different way than you do from my point of view. That's what this is. My point of view. Oh, my point of view is all wrong. No. My point of view is my point of view. Your point of view is your point of view. You better get that right. Stop drinking the fucking Kool-Aid. So, this is a real video. You ain't never heard me talk like this, I know. But what I saw today was absolute pandemonium and chaos. People breaking into the Senate building. Some people making threats about dragging senators out and executing them on the lawn. I thought y'all loved this thing called the Constitution. But if you can't have your fake American dream, you're spoiled brats who'd rather just burn the whole thing down. And I saw people cheering for it because the people I work around Jesus, they were cheering for it. They were cheering for this. They were cheering that this was happening because guess what? Those people in those offices have been lying to you for years, but not about what you think they are. The whole Democrat-Republican thing is a lie. They got us over here as black people going, we're going to get change. We're going to get change. You got two pennies. You got over here, you got the other side. They're going to keep that government from knocking on our doors and taking our guns. They're not going to take the guns out of my cold dead hands. I'm going to put the right politician in office. Same one's been in there for 20 years. He's been voting on those bills that take the guns out of your hands. But you keep putting him in office because he says he's a conservative and he's an NRA member and all those other nice little things. You keep falling for that lie. Yet, you hate someone like AOC. You hate Ilhan Omar because, of course, Ilhan Omar is the wrong religion, wrong color, all those things. So when they start getting in office, just like the president, you start getting scared. But along comes Trump, Tucker Carlson, Rush Limbaugh. They've been souping you up for years, talking about what's wrong with America. Let me tell you what's wrong with America. America has lived on a lie that it refuses to tell the truth about. We hold these truths. We hold these truths. America has to live up to that before any of the suit change can happen. Otherwise, like today, I'm listening to all sorts of things. I hear it in people on NPR's voice how lost they were. Yet, they all work for the corporate media. NPR is no different. NPR, CNN, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, all those. It's corporate media. Don't be fooled. They know what they're doing. It's about making profits. And the industrial military machine. It ain't about you, and it ain't about you, it ain't about none of that. Yet, you're storming the Capitol building because you know that they haven't been thinking about you at all. You always talk about it. So you storm the building today. For who? Donald Trump, who is definitely a member of that elite class. Tweeting about it today. Tweeting about violence. Should the President of the United States be removed from office? Yes. Got 2 weeks. Pence can handle it for 2 weeks. If he don't act fool, he can handle it for 2 weeks. Trump should be removed from office, put in chains, and put in jail. Bottom line. That's the way I feel about it. So now, there's a lot of Americans today at night who are scared that democracy is done. I don't know what to tell you. 72 million Americans voted for Trump. And a good number of them think that he got cheated out of the election. When the whole election thing is a scam anyway, because there's only two parties you can vote for. Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. And then it goes to an electoral college after you've already voted. All of that's a scam. It don't matter who's going to win in the end. It's already been decided. Your vote counted. Their vote counted. Then they went to this electoral college and they counted again. See the fallacy of the whole thing? No, you don't. You don't see it. You don't see it. In other countries, there's multiple parties. In the United States, there's two. Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal. The fallacy of America. And both of those are elitist groups. Both of them are elitist groups. Meanwhile, you're down here. And your liberties and your freedoms are being stomped on. But you're doing it the wrong way. Because you're wanting to stomp on the liberties and freedoms of people that look like me, that look like Ilhan Omar, that look like AOC. You don't want to do the right thing. America, your democracy is in trouble because it never was a democracy in the first place. When you learn to treat people right, when you realize the equality of man, not your false sense of what equality is, you cannot define each individual on this earth. You cannot tell them how to live. You cannot tell them where to live. When you learn this, America, then you will know what real freedom is. But America right now is in chaos because that falseness of the American dream feels like it's slipping away when it never really was there. Well, Topic Mixer family, I hope you like this video. I know it's kind of long. I hope you have a wonderful night. And if you really like this video, I want you to share it with others. And we'll talk again.